They say the mountains keep secrets. Not the kind you can dig up, but the kind that watch you back. When the fog rolls down from the Appalachian peaks and settles in the hollows, the locals know to shut their doors. They don't talk about it much. Around here, silence is the only language that keeps you safe. Mason didn't know that. He was a photographer, a drifter with a lens and a habit of chasing light in places that didn't want to be found. He'd spent weeks driving through the spine of the Appalachians, chasing whispers of an untouched valley, a hollow that the maps forgot. He'd seen it mentioned once in a faded blog post from 2009. The mist in Boone Hollow never burns off. Locals call it the breathing fog. No coordinates, no photos, just that sentence. And that was all Mason needed. He arrived just after dusk, the sun melting behind black ridges, the air thick with the damp chill of early October. The town he stopped in barely had a name. A single road, 2 gas pumps, a diner with a flickering neon sign that read, Miller's Rest. Inside, the smell of grease and coffee lingered. Old men sat at the counter, faces carved by years of coal dust and mountain winters. They all looked up when Mason entered. He felt their eyes follow him as he sat down. "Evenin'," he said. "You folks ever heard of Boone Hollow?" A man in overalls stopped stirring his coffee. Another shifted in his seat. "Ain't no reason to go up there," one finally said. His voice was low, gravelly. "Fog don't clear. GPS don't work. Nothin' grows right neither." Mason smiled politely. "That's kind of the point. I'm a photographer, just looking to capture the landscape." The man looked at him for a long time, his jaw moving like he was chewing a thought. Then he leaned forward, eyes clouded with something that wasn't quite fear, but close. "Son, fog up there ain't just weather. It's the mountain thinkin'." Mason chuckled awkwardly, thanked him for the coffee, and left a few bills on the counter. As he turned to leave, the old man added quietly, "If the fog talks to you, don't answer." By the time Mason reached the trailhead, night had settled in full. The road narrowed to gravel, then dirt. His headlights cut through mist that seemed to swallow sound itself. He parked beside a half-collapsed sign that read, Boone Hollow Preserve, 1954. The rest of the words were lost under moss and time. He should have stopped there. But curiosity is a louder voice than fear. He set up camp beside a creek that murmured through the stones. The fog rolled in soon after, thick, gray, alive. It wasn't like normal mist. It moved in slow, deliberate waves like it was breathing. Mason zipped up his tent, checked his gear, and set up his camera on a tripod facing the trees. The red recording light blinked in the dark. "If I vanish," he said into the lens, half joking, "maybe the mountain just wants a picture of me too." He turned off the light and lay back, listening to the creek and the distant creak of trees. His eyelids grew heavy. That's when the whispers began. At first, it sounded like wind curling through the branches, a faint murmur, words too soft to make out. Then the tone shifted, rhythmic, repeating, like a prayer being whispered backward. Mason sat up. The fog had thickened, pressing against the tent walls. He could barely see his own hands. "Hello." No answer. Just the whispering, closer now. He grabbed his flashlight, unzipped the tent, and stepped out into the mist. The beam of light caught nothing but white. The air felt wrong, heavy like standing in the belly of a storm. Then he saw it, shape, standing just beyond the tree line, half swallowed by the fog. Mason froze. His breath came shallow, his pulse hammering in his ears. He blinked, and the figure was gone. He stumbled back toward his tent, the fog curling around his legs like fingers. The whispering rose again, louder this time, and now he could almost make out words. "Leave the light, stay in the dark." Mason's flashlight flickered. The batteries died. He sat inside the tent until morning, clutching his camera like a weapon. The whispers faded with the first rays of dawn. When he finally stepped outside, the fog was gone, replaced by sunlight glinting off dew-covered leaves. The woods looked harmless, peaceful even. He packed up, shook off the night, and decided to hike deeper into the hollow. Whatever he'd seen, whatever he'd heard, it had to have an explanation. He didn't realize that the fog was waiting. It always was. Fog doesn't disappear here. It only hides, waiting for the sun to look away. By midday, Mason was deep into Boone Hollow. His camera swung from his neck, lens cap off, always ready. The forest around him looked older than memory. Gnarled roots like knuckles, bark blackened by decades of storms. He took photos as he walked, blick, blick, trying to capture the beauty in decay. But beauty wasn't what the lens wanted to find. At about 3 miles in, Mason discovered signs of a trail, not one made by hikers, but by footsteps that were wrong. Long stride, narrow heel, deep impressions like whoever made them weighed more than a human should. He knelt beside one and looked closely. There were no tread marks, no distinct toes. Just a hollow, a perfect smooth indent in the earth. Like the ground itself had sucked something down. He stood slowly, uneasy. The trees around him creaked, not from wind, but as if they were shifting, leaning closer. He checked his GPS. No signal. The map showed a blank screen. Loading. He tapped the device. Nothing. Then the whispering began again. Not from ahead, not from behind, from the trees, from the air, from everywhere. Mason turned in a slow circle, heart pounding. "Hello!" His voice seemed too loud, like it didn't belong in the quiet. The wind died. The whispers stopped. That's when he saw it. Just a flicker, movement behind a tree. Narrow shoulders. White maybe. He lifted his camera instinctively and snapped a shot. Blick. Nothing. When he checked the display, just fog swallowing trees. But he could have sworn something had been there. Mason pressed onward. He kept telling himself it was just nerves, the isolation messing with his senses. But the forest didn't feel empty anymore. Felt crowded. Not with animals. Not with people. With watchers. He reached a stretch of pines so dense the sunlight barely touched the ground. The air grew colder, sharper, like breathing in winter. He could taste metal, iron like blood or rust. The whispering started again. But this time it was clear. He's here. The one who sees. Take him. Mason's breath trembled. He spun around. And there between the pines, silhouette, thin body, 2 long limbs, head tilted impossibly far to one side. The figure didn't move, didn't sway, didn't breathe, just watched. Mason lifted his camera with his hands shaking. He tried to take a few shots. The figure vanished. Not walked away. Vanished like the fog swallowed it whole. His camera screen glitched. Static flickering across the display. Every photo he had taken corrupted. Blurred white shapes crowding the frame. Faces stretched and hollow. He dropped the camera in panic. His mind screamed to turn back. Run to the safety of the sunlit clearing. But his feet carried him deeper. Something in the fog was calling him forward. Not with words. With curiosity. The same curiosity that brought him here. The kind that kills. The woods opened suddenly into a small clearing. At the center stood an old stone well, crumbling and choked with vines. But that wasn't what made Mason stop breathing. It was the tripod leaning against it. A tripod holding a weathered, dirt-covered camera. A model from the early 2000s. Abandoned. Forgotten. He approached slowly. On the ground beside it lay a torn jacket sleeve. And a radio transmitter. Still on. Still whispering static. Mason reached out. "Don't!" He spun, stumbling back. No one there. The static grew louder, shifting. Turning into voices. "Lost, hollow, help, can't leave." Another voice layered under it. "Enter. Stay, stay." Mason stepped away from the well, panic rising into his throat. He could feel eyes all around him, prickling at the back of his neck. The forest pressed close. Branches like ribs. Fog like flesh. Quiet. Too quiet. No birds. No insects. Not even wind. The stillness felt like being sealed inside a coffin. And the air behind Mason dropped in temperature. Slowly, he turned. There, inches away. A face in the fog. Not a solid face. A shape cut out of the white mist. Eyes. Deep pale holes. Mouth. Open too wide, stretching. Silently screaming. The thing leaned toward him. Its presence cold as the grave. Mason stumbled back. His heel caught on a root. He fell hard. The fog rushed in. "We found him. Keep him. Hollow, hollow." He scrambled to his feet and ran. Branches slashed his arms. Roots clawed at his boots. The forest groaned with every step, like the trees themselves wanted to drag him down. He didn't look back. He didn't need to. He could hear them following. Soft feet on dead leaves, always right behind him, never catching up. A mockery of a chase. They enjoyed the running. Finally, he crashed through the brush and burst back onto the creekside where he had camped. His tent stood where he left it, but everything felt wrong. Twisted. Warped. His entire campsite was coated in frost. In October, in daylight, the fog crept slowly after him, coiling at the tree line like a living thing. "I need to leave right now." He grabbed his gear with shaking hands and bolted toward the trail. Every sound in the woods was gone, except one. "Mason." He froze. That voice belonged to his sister, but she was hundreds of miles away. "Come back, we're waiting." Mason ran until his lungs burned, until his legs nearly gave out, until the trailhead sign finally came into view. Rusted wood and peeling paint never looked so beautiful. He leapt into his car, slammed the door, and twisted the key. The engine roared to life. He didn't breathe again until the fog was a fading smear in the rearview mirror. But when he finally dared look at the passenger seat, the camera he dropped in the woods was lying there. Lens cracked, light blinking, recording. Mason escaped the hollow, but the hollow didn't let him go. Mason drove until the fog gave up chasing him. At least, that's what he told himself. Hours later, he pulled into a quiet town 2 states away. All brick storefronts and whispering maples. The sun was setting, washing the streets gold. People walked dogs. Kids laughed. It was the kind of place that shouldn't feel wrong. But somehow, it did. He checked into a motel off the highway, dropped his gear by the bed, and just stood there, listening. The room hummed softly with the noise of civilization. Air conditioning, distant traffic, a TV murmuring through the wall. It was supposed to be comforting. It wasn't. That night, Mason showered, ate, and sat by the window watching the sky darken. He told himself he'd upload the photos tomorrow. maybe write a post about the trip. But when he finally picked up the camera, the one that shouldn't have been in his car, the screen blinked awake before he touched it. Recording. He froze. He hadn't turned it on. He hadn't even charged it. The display glowed faintly in the dim room. There was a new folder. Hollow. _ He scrolled. Hundreds of files. He opened the first. It was footage of the creek. His camp. The camera was sitting still, recording him from outside the tent. But Mason remembered bringing the camera inside that night. He fast-forwarded. A timestamp ran past midnight. The fog thickened in the frame, and then, faintly, the outline of a person appeared. Watching the tent. Then another. And another. Dozens. The fog pulsed like it was breathing with them. And then, at 3:17 a.m., the tent unzipped from the outside. The camera tilted upward, capturing his own face. Stepping out into the fog, he stopped the video there, closed the camera, and sat in silence for a long time. He told himself it was a trick of memory. He'd been tired, hallucinating. But in the days that followed, little things began to slip. In the mirror, his reflection lagged behind him, half a heartbeat too slow. Sometimes when he blinked, the world seemed to flicker between light and fog. And the photos, the ones he uploaded, they changed on their own. In each image, faint shapes emerged where there should have been trees. Pale outlines, faces, touching. He started hearing the whispers again. Not outside, inside. Soft at first, like a radio underwater. He left the hollow. He shouldn't have. Bring him back. He smashed the camera, unplugged the laptop, threw everything into the motel dumpster. But that night, the red recording light shone again, from the reflection of the window. Blinking. Low. Steady. Mason left the next morning. He drove until his gaslight came on. Everywhere he stopped, the fog seemed to find him again. Thin at first, curling through parking lots, creeping across fields. He started avoiding mirrors, windows, still water, because in every reflection, he caught a glimpse of himself, smiling when he wasn't, and always behind him, a pale outline waiting. Weeks passed. He stopped trying to convince himself he'd escaped. Because maybe he hadn't. Maybe the hollow never needed to follow him at all. Maybe he'd brought it with him. Sometimes in dreams, Mason stands at the edge of the creek again. The fog curls around his legs. The camera's red light blinks once. He hears them whisper. Not angry. Not cruel, just patient. You left us, but you're one of us now. When he wakes, the air in his room tastes like rain and soil. His footprints on the carpet are damp. He doesn't bother wiping them away anymore. If you drive through the Appalachians at night, when the fog pools low and the trees bend close, you might see him. A man walking alone beside the road. Camera around his neck. Eyes blank and distant, as if focused on something far beyond the world you know. If you roll down your window, he'll turn toward you. He'll smile that wrong, hollow smile. And he'll raise the camera. Don't let him take your picture, because the mountains remember the ones they take. And the fog never lets go. If you felt the fog closing in while you listened, you're not alone. The hollow folk travel through whispers, through memories, through the spaces between one breath and the next. They listen to those who listen for them. And if you've heard their call tonight, perhaps they've heard yours too. But don't be afraid. Darkness only whispers when it wants to be remembered. If you want to keep listening to what waits beyond the light, stay close, subscribe, and I'll keep the stories coming. Until the next whisper, don't answer when the fog calls your name.